All right, today's assignment is 4.2, Variables Investigate. It's a continuation of the Variables Explore assignment. You guys should have watched the video on that and turned it in already. So basically what you're going to do is open 4.2, make a copy, make sure you save it in your computer science folder. Go to code.org, go to Unit 4, Lesson 2, and we're going to click on number 2. Okay, and here's the first thing I want you guys to do. You guys should be familiar with this because you were supposed to kind of mess around with these apps in the first lesson, but if you haven't, that's okay. We'll mess around with them right now. So basically you're going to do what the instructions say. Click Run and observe what happens. Try clicking on different parts of the app screen. So I'm going to do this worksheet with you guys. We're going to do only challenges 2, 3, and 4 today, and then we'll save the rest for Monday. Okay, so it says what information is being stored in the variables and what information is being changed. Well, let's look at this app, and I'm going to click Run and just kind of mess around with the buttons, and you guys could click back and forth. Think about the variable that needs to be stored, and once you guys start messing around with coding variables, you guys will be a lot more familiar with how they work. But what information actually needs to be stored here? The number that needs to be stored is the actual degree in Fahrenheit. Okay, so the variable for my number for temperature should be stored, and it is the same thing that's going to be changed. So it says what information is going to be stored? The number for the temperature should be stored. And I'll just say when the buttons are clicked, the variables, or they'll say the variable changes by 1 up or down. Okay, so the way this one would actually work, and we'll get to see it in just a minute, is it stores my number 70. It starts out with a variable, which is temperature 70. If I click up button, it has to go temperature plus 1. And it goes back and finds out what temperature was. What was it? 70. 70 plus 1, now we get 71. Okay, and you'll see how this works in just a second. Okay, let's go ahead and look at it. Everybody click on number 3 at the top. I'm going to set my version history, start over. And remember, a variable is a lot like the variables you use in math. We use variables because there's something that is going to change. It's easier to have a variable instead of doing the math for something every single time. So let's look at this code, and basically that's what it says to do. It says what's happening in lines 1 through 12 and what's happening in lines 14 through 21. So let's look at it. 1 through 12 stops about right here. Well, the first line is a comment. We're not going to worry about comments, but we're going to worry about everything else. So it sets 2 variables. The way I know that, it says VAR, VAR. Okay, a variable named temp. Okay, so let's put that, and let's say sets 2 variables. You guys don't have to write it exactly how I write, as long as you guys can get your point across. I'm going to put colon temp and temp F. And you got to type in exactly how they're written here because the computer is very literal. If you made temp with a lowercase everything and then you went down here and asked for the uppercase T in a temp, it would not recognize what variable you're looking for. It doesn't know what capital T in temp, it doesn't understand that. So it's very literal. It wants exactly how you typed it. So this data type right here is an integer. We talked about 3 different data types. There's an integer, there is a string, and then there's a Boolean. We'll talk about Booleans later. The data type for this one, if you guys can see for temp F, is a string because it has double quotes. There's absolutely nothing in the string right now. And usually when they do that, that means they're going to plug something in for it later, and you'll see how that happens. Let's see, what else does it say? We'll put enter, backspace, and I'm going to put I'm going to basically write what this means. So when the down button is clicked, it's going to change my temp and temp F. I'll say when the down button, camel cased, is clicked, it will change my two variables, comma. What else does it do? We'll talk about what this is later in just a second. And then it'll change the text. Changes the text for the label, which is, this is the label right here showing what actually is happening. And then it also will play a sound. Also play a sound. Okay? So lines 14 through 21, if you'll look, does the same exact thing, except it doesn't set variables. Variables only get set at the very top of a program. Okay? I guess you could set variables in the middle of a program, but it's easier organization-wise if they're set at the top. If I were to set a variable down here, I couldn't use above it. We'll talk about scope later. But anyways, so it says it does the exact same thing except it's for the on button. So up button, if the up button's clicked, it takes the temperature up 1, and it changes my second variable, temp F. Okay, and let's talk about this right now, just real fast. You don't have to type this all out, but I want you guys to listen and learn about this. If temperature is my variable and it starts at 70, if they click the down button, it's going to go temperature, whatever it is, which is 70, minus 1. So it turns into 69. And then also it's got another variable here, temp F. And temp F basically is going to just add two things together. It's going to add a string and whatever temp what ended up being. So it's going to take temp F is going to be 69 plus, which is adding it right next to it, a space and F. The space is so 70 and F don't go right next to each other. Okay, so it's adding whatever they calculated in this expression for temp, which turned out to be 69 after you hit the down button, and the space F, which gives you this label right here. And then, in order for it to actually show the user, you have to actually set it in a label text. Okay, that may be confusing, but this is like doing math in your head. This is like putting it down on paper or putting it on your user interface when you set the text. If you don't set the text, it won't show you anything here, and nothing will change. And at the very end, a sound will play. Okay, same thing's happening there. Make sure you type all that out for what's happening on 1 through 12 and 14 through 21. The next part is the challenge, and you guys remember you can pause these at any time you need. The next part is the challenge. It says, what would you modify to change the degrees by 2? Include a snip of your modified lines. I think you guys could probably figure this one out on your own, but the way it's changing it by 1 is temp minus 1. I could change that to 2. Temp plus 1, change that to 2. Once you do that, snip it or screenshot it and put it right here. The last part says add a snip of your watcher. So let's go to challenge 4. Challenge 4 is, it goes like this. Let me start it over real fast. You can move this up to look more at all the code at once. This looks like a lot, but once you start understanding it, it won't look like very much at all. Basically, you guys can tell there's 4 variables now. There's temp F, temp C, temp display F, and temp display C. Remember that casing is very important. So it is temp is all lowercase, and then F is uppercase. It has to be that way. So when you rewrite it, it has to be that way. A watcher basically is, it shows you how your variable is changing as it's running. And some apps will show you the variables and how they change, just like this one. This one does. So if I click up and down, well, it's running slow. Let me speed it up. You guys can speed it up by doing this. But if I run it and then click these buttons, it will show it changing. Some apps don't have it showing the text, the label text, the actual change. So what you can do is put a watcher in here, and this is for basically the programmer to know. If you have a variable that's changing and it's not actually showing in a message label or a text label somewhere, then what you could do is use a watcher. And the way what you do is you type in your name of your variable, which is right here, temp F, and I'm going to click the plus sign. I'm going to type in the other variables, temp C, and I have to type it exactly the way it's typed in up here. Hit the plus sign. Hit temp display F. exactly how you can basically copy and paste it if you want. I think it's easier just to type temp display C, hit the plus sign, and then you can basically run your app and watch them change. You can watch these change, and remember, you can speed it up with this. Going slow. But these are watchers. These basically show you how the variables change. Remember, computers do the math in their head unless you have a text label that shows it to show up on your user interface of your app. So once you get that done, I want you to snip it. Just snip this little box of watchers and paste it right here. Remember, you can pause it if you need to. Last thing we're going to do today, it says, what does math.round do? And let's look real fast. I've got my version history restored already where I have my math rounds in. So you guys don't have to do this to mess up yours, but I'm going to do it to mess up mine just a little bit. These math rounds, this is actually going to end up converting my temperature Fahrenheit to Celsius. But we want to know, what does math round block do? And the way you can figure it out is you guys can go to your toolbox over here, and if you hover over something, a blue box will come up and kind of tell you what the block does. I can go to math, hover over math round, and it says it rounds a number to the nearest integer. So I'm going to do this on mine. I'm going to show my text. This is written code. And I'm going to take out the math rounds. There's 3 of them. Let me do this real fast. I'm going to take it out and then run and show you what the difference is when it doesn't have the math round in. And if you guys will notice, these in Celsius turn into decimals. Math round obviously just rounds it to the nearest integer. So that's what we're going to put. So math round rounds, you guys can type this in. Math round blocks round the number to the nearest integer. Once you guys are done with this, let's wait until we come back on Monday and we will finish challenge 5 all the way through the end. Challenge 5 and 6, and do these last 2 definitions.